prenups?
Prenups.
Does it help at all?
Man, prenups can get thrown out and they can be argued against. And so the problem with court is how much it's going to cost you. So the process is the punishment, okay? So like going through the court system is part of the punishment. It's expensive. Even if you don't use an attorney, it gets expensive, and whatever rulings get made are really, really hard to reverse. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. But in a prenup, if it's argued, you're going to have to argue that back. And it can be argued. And it's good because it's a good standard to go off of. But if there's property that's bought in that time, if there's any question, if you're not familiar with the law, if the law changes when that attorney writes it up, you know, like maybe it happens 10 years later when you guys split up, or 3 years, but different laws or different rulings can get changed. Like, so laws get changed by courts and by legislature. They don't get changed by yelling about it on social media. So if different rulings have been done by a judge with some of the property or custody in a prenup, it could get argued, and then that gets expensive, and then that gets taxing. And see, here's the problem, is that it may save you some money, which is good. Like, you should get prenups. It's good. It could be used as a tool to guide people. It could be used as a tool to make her not want to fight you as much. All those things are true. But when a guy is devastated, so when a female-inspired divorce, a guy is going to feel guilty, he's going to fight for it. A female-inspired custody thing is, the guy is going to fight for it. He's going to want to, and he's going to be devastated. He's going to blame himself. He's going to analyze everything he did wrong, and he's going to want to fight, but he's also going to want to take any chance to make it up. And that's not a weak man. That's not some stupid guy. That's a guy, like, this is one of the things in our culture, like, we don't have people speaking to broken men. We just say they're weak. And when a strong man, like the man that is the biggest eagle, the CEO, the fighter, any of these things, gets his ass kicked in a relationship, he's never been hit that hard or hit hard in that way. And so a lot of times he'll be just like beaten down. And if he has a prenup, he's going to be so psychologically fucked while fighting that. He's not going to know what to do. He could then do something stupid, which could sabotage the case. Wow. Like, he could do something where he's acting out violent. He said, like, it's real easy, man. If she sends me a fucked up text message and I say, man, fuck you, bitch, if you said that in front of my face, you know, like, you are going to jail. Like, the words that made us strong in nature are the words that put us in jail. The alpha males of our modern culture are in jail. That's what happens to them. If they're unchecked, if they're not taught, if they're not shown, they're not guided. We have so many men misleading men. Like, man, I honestly think that a lot of the men's movement has hurt men more, giving false hope, bullshit coaches, advice that doesn't work, gives guys a false sense of confidence. Like, don't get a lawyer. There's a time to not get a lawyer, and you can do it yourself, but do it fucking right. You have to bear down and not fuck this up. And if you get a lawyer, then learn how to find a lawyer. It's not just that the system's corrupt and people suck. You have to learn it.
So let's go into like a hypothetical scenario. Let's say someone has a girl, they get her pregnant, whatever it is, they got a kid with her, and they get served this paperwork. How should we go about this step by step? I know you had mentioned go watch the judge, etc., etc. But let's say someone gets served today. What would you tell them step by step they need to do to ensure that they at least get some type of custody of their kids, right? Like, now that we have 20/20 hindsight from your mistakes, from clients that you've worked with, from your knowledge and everything else like that, generally speaking, what would they need to do step by step? They get served that paperwork today. What do they do?
Step by step, what they would do, ideally, but they're probably not going to do
What's
it.
the first step?
Is they should hire me. They should get my groups. They should talk with other men who are going through this, not men who've been past it. Because here's one of the other things: if a guy's been past this and it's been 2 years, his interpretation of it was hard. I had to step forward. I had to get a hobby. I had to get over it. I just had to move past it. But in that moment, your mind is so fucked. You need to get around men going through it who have their finger on the pulse of it. You also need to start looking at what is going to determine whatever it is, custody or visitation. You have to understand how that is determined. And it's not that she's a bitch and you're cool or you're an asshole sometimes. Like, one of the things my attorney told me is, he said, Steve, I got a guy who was convicted of murder, custody of his kids, because they're two separate cases. It doesn't necessarily, I'm not saying that he's a good dad, bad dad, whatever, anything like that. But the thing is you have to understand what rules custody, and you need to cut out the drama. You need to not send text messages, but that's almost impossible. You need to cut it down to only what is necessary in parenting. You need to not listen to friends and family that are, well, listen to them for support, but not for legal advice and what you need to do right now. And if you don't, it could end up good, but if it goes bad, it gets catastrophic quick and almost immediately.
So step one, get a support group of guys that are going through it. Now, step two, should they secure a lawyer right then and there?
I think they should start interviewing lawyers, and you can always switch lawyers.
Okay. How should they go about interviewing lawyers?
When you interview a lawyer, the best way to get a good lawyer is reference from other attorneys who are active. The other thing that you should look for, like, so it could be a tax attorney, business attorney, all that sort of stuff. But if they reference a family law attorney and they're active in it, it's good.
So just to answer your point as well, I reached out to Jim Sexton, regular lawyer in New York, and he has a network of guys that are very successful in their different endeavors, because obviously law is very diverse, and he knew people from a certain network. So I was like, who could I go to for these things? And he had a network there.
No, man, like a network of attorneys, that's what I had in 2019. Like, I knew attorneys, and I knew a bunch. And at a certain point,
let's say people don't know.
Right.
How do they go about Googling and finding a family attorney in their area?
Google and Yelp are going to give you a whole bunch of stuff.
Generic?
Because let's say that attorney's really good, and the ex puts a Yelp review against them or something like that, or whatever. Like, anybody can leave a review. But they're good to go off of. It's not bad. But your number one thing that you got to look for when interviewing an attorney is, do they go to court? Are they in front of judges?
Okay.
You never want to go to trial, but you need an attorney that is never afraid to go to trial, right? And so when this is the case, like, let's say we're in a dispute and my attorney says, dude, let's go to trial. Let's go. You want that intimidation to be real.
Okay.
Like, let's make this $20,000 more right now, and the potential that you could get a ruling against you that could totally fuck you.
Okay.
Let's go. So an attorney that
you need a lawyer that's like it has courtroom experience and isn't afraid to litigate, because that is true. Most attorneys are terrified of actually litigating. So, okay. So you interview them, make sure that they're actively in court, they're litigating cases, etc., and they're active. So join it. So step one, you get served, join a group, get a lawyer. Then what? Should they start going to court and looking at that judge that they?
Absolutely. I think. Anybody, if you have the best lawyer in the world, you have to educate yourself on the system, and you're gonna have to work your ass off. So lawyer or no lawyer, you have to know everything. A good lawyer is gonna have more clients, and they're all fucked up, man. Lawyers are crazy, right? So a good lawyer is going to be in a spot where they're overwhelmed, they have a lot of cases, they make mistakes.
Should that lawyer also be very familiar with that judge that you got served with? Okay.
So when lawyers,
that's a part of the interview process. Are you familiar with this judge?
When lawyers know each other, that's good. It could be bad if they want to talk you, if they want to manipulate you, then that's bad, right? If you're acting too dramatic, because guys and girls piss off their lawyers all the time.
Damn.
And if you get off on a bad foot with them, then they'll talk to the other lawyer, hey, let's talk these guys into this, right? And that works against you. But if they know each other, they can say, hey, look, man, she's saying this, it's unrealistic. Do we really want to throw time at this? Like, this is a waste of time. You need to talk her out of this, which is what essentially my lawyer did to my ex.
Yeah. Okay. So join a group, secure the lawyer, start going to the courtroom. How often should they be going and looking at how the judge rules? Once a week?
I think they should watch 15 cases. And
okay.
It's a ballpark thing.
Okay.
There's guys in my group that'll watch family court every week, once a week.
Okay.
And man,
can you get through 15 cases in maybe two or three visits, you think?
Yes, yeah. But there's a lot of downtime, and it's not fun.
They motion for recess and shit like that. It's an all-day affair.
It's not fun.
Yeah, they'll do 2 or 3 recess, then come back and okay. So watch 15 cases. That's good advice. Then, as you get closer to your date, and you're saying avoid obviously contacting her, avoid all contact with her. Be wary of advice given by friends and family. Only listen to your lawyer. What else will people do? Because now they're in your group, they're talking with their lawyer, they're going and they're looking at 15 cases, court cases coming up for the first hearing. What else should they do in that time span where they're waiting?
You need to build a team. And so if they're in my group or some support group like that, team means they're talking to 5 people a day. They're talking to 5 people a day who understand the process. Not just like, man, I'm being accused of this, I want to fucking kill her. And some guy's like, just forgive them. You need to do that. Like, that's not, you need to listen to somebody that can relate and just go, man, I understand. Like, I understand you want to do, like, I want to do the same thing. Let's not do it right now. Let's talk this through. And when you get to that
level,
level,
them off the ledge.
Pretty much, when you get to that level of trauma, like nobody's going to listen to anything unless you have experienced it, unless they respect you in it. And for real, man, I mean, that's an honorable thing. Like if you've walked in those shoes, because it's
much different, man.
It's like you're like, man, fuck this, let's fight, and then it moves to like, but man, if I could just talk, I could just reason with her, I could just talk to her, and he's not thinking straight too, and she's not thinking straight, and you could say something that could get used against you, and you don't think it does.
So cut all contact. Never just no. Don't even talk to her. People think I can get her to change her mind. Don't even bother.
But that's a day-by-day conversation you got to have with guys.
Okay.
Like I'd say 3 times a week, you're gonna have that conversation with a guy that's in his first 2 months, maybe 6 months, of where it's like, hey, look, no, man, you can't do it, and he's still gonna fuck up because he's human. But it's his nature to confront, to bring rationale to it, to protect his family, all those different things in a way that he feels, but we're not living in our nature.
All right. What else should they do?
Man,
preparing to this, or is it just a weight game at this point?
No. The weight game is so fucked up, right? Because you move big. Man, we're gonna do this. We set it up. We make the dates. We get the deposition dates. We get the hearing dates. Whatever. We're organizing stuff for mediation. We're doing discovery honor, all this sort of stuff. Okay, we're done. 3 months. Shit. Man, 6 weeks, and that's so hard. That's so hard. Well, I wanna see my kids. Here's actually a pro tip that comes from our groups. If you're a father and you don't have a protective order or restraining order or anything like that, man, you go eat lunch at school with your kids. Call school, find out when parents are come and buy back some parent time. Like it's a huge thing that guys do in our groups, and
really,
oh man, it's the best. Like do it as much as possible.
Like go and have lunch with your kid when they have their in the cafeteria.
And there's no consequences against that? Nothing bad will happen?
Well, if the school might be a private school and have their own rules. If it's a public school, it has some system set up. Almost all schools will have a system set up, and it depends on the state, but in some states, you don't need any court order to do that. If you're a parent, you can do it.
Wow.
But you should check. You should call the school.
It's a W tip.
And schools may not know.
Does that like illustrate your care to your children? Is that why it's so important?
It's just important to be ready. Guys are devastated.
Yeah.
Like, that's the problem.
Oh, it helps with semblance of like maintaining sanity. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The best way to combat parental alienation or being kept from your kids is parenting time. It's not making her look bad or whatever. It's how much parenting time can you get.
I have a question though, real quick. If I go to my child's school and let's say she finds out about that, wouldn't that be used against me in court?
You're taking initiative to be a father?
But remember, if I'm not supposed to see the kid, doesn't that like...
No. So
he said if they don't have a protective order, if there's nothing against you,
got it.
You can go.
There could be like a temporary parenting plan where they're like, we don't know, so we're going to play on the safe side, and she's going to watch the kids, and you can see them at these days. Like the court can't make a decision. The parents are arguing and all that sort of stuff. So they just say, look, we're going to do this. And you're like, you saw that child every day. You know, you are so fucked. Like it's so hard to describe to people. Like it is mind numbing, and you're going crazy. Like you're all alone. You have nothing, man.
Yeah.
You know, and so go to the school, see the kids. It might even be weird for them, but it's always better.
Okay.
If your kids can't see you, and you're allowed to legally see them as much as possible when it doesn't cause conflict with the mother. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, so that's I like that. What else should guys be doing? Because you mentioned very early on that it's the beginning is the most critical.
Yeah.
That's where everyone messes up. They don't hire a lawyer, whatever it may be. What else can guys do to avoid messing up so they're not starting this case off on the back foot?
Yeah, I think guys should seek out some sort of therapy or something like this. Now, a support group is different than a lawyer, and it's different than a therapist or some sort of, psychological help. Or there's guys in our groups that go to, there's Muslim guys in our groups who go to imams, or Catholic guys that will go, seek out some guidance.
Okay.
And it's very important because it's that weekly check-in that gets you straight. Okay. And if you have faith, you don't have to have faith. Like, you can be atheist, agnostic, whatever, and find some sanity. But if you can find something that has some guidance, it's very important, because the biggest changes are going to be made in points of desperation. But points of desperation are dangerous and they suck. But if you can get somebody who has some wisdom to move towards that, it's going to make you a better father.
All right.
Yeah.
So Okay, so just to recap for the audience. So you get served that paperwork. First thing you're doing is you're joining a support group. You're getting a lawyer. You're interviewing that lawyer, making sure that they are familiar with the judge that you've been assigned. Then you start watching that judge in court, watch at least 15 cases. Once you have those 15 cases down, obviously consult with people, get closer with maybe a religious leader of some kind, and avoid contacting the girl. Now we're at the point where we're going to get into that first hearing. What should guys do?
Man, you need to be prepared. So you need to take all the notes that you got from that judge and how they rule, and how they ruled on cases similar to yours, as well as similar personality types of the mother. So you don't know what she's going to do, but you can almost bank on that, like, she's going to go for the hysterical thing. So she's going to be too dramatic and try and, you know, be like Atticus Finch and To Kill a Mockingbird, like win over the court in all these charismatic ways.
Gotcha.
Judges don't want to see that. Like, they want to see the facts, right? So you need to understand her personality type. I'd even say this, like, and this is where men need to start. Man, I really dislike this a lot about men's media. Men need to learn how to stop with legal force in the courtroom, not by force, on what was going to stop your baby mama, ex, whatever it is. You need to stop that. So if you know her psychological profile and you can disadvantage her in court to stop, that doesn't mean you ruin her life. Like, and I think that is what's so important from our groups. Like, you don't disenfranchise the mom because it's going to affect the kids, but you want the mom to get help if she needs it. You want her to see reality. You want to stop any sort of parental alienation, meaning separating you from the
yeah, that's interesting.
roles.
So because it's interesting because, like, for you to be able to fight to get the custody, you have to knock her down to a degree where it's like, no, kids need both, but at the same time you're saying, like, don't completely demolish her and show that she's an unfit parent.
I mean, look at this. Like, women come in here and they say they're the shit, and you say, man, really, come on, look at you. Like, why are you holding yourself to that value? Then up it. If you are that value, if you think you're a 10, be it. Fucking be it. Don't lie to me about it. So if I'm in there and my family's falling apart, I need to come in as a dad and say, hey, look, you need to stop. But I can't say it in those words. I need to say, look, in these situations, I took the kids to school more, whatever the thing is, and you did this and that and blah, 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 and you went out and partied, you tested positive for these drugs, or whatever it is. Like, you need to use that to your advantage to say, man, here's the fucking reality. You need to fucking stop. This is about our kids. This isn't about you empowering yourself and posting on social media and getting the cool
And this
divorce.
is obviously going to be argued on your behalf by your lawyer in court, right?
Or if you can do it, you can do it. Like, you can go in pro se, but you just have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the consequences if you fail could be very, very bad.
Okay.
There's a guy that I actually met up with, and his motto is child support is fraud. I don't know what that means per se. He was just saying it's kind of like a term used to kind of like go into court with, but he was saying that if you know what you're doing, you can get out of it pretty easily or get it lowered to a very low amount.
Man, so
because the more you see your kids, the less child support you pay, correct?
Well, no.
If it's 50-50, you don't pay?
Every state is different. If it's 50-50, there's still a primary often, and the primary will receive child support. It depends on the state, depends on the county.
Okay.
Child support is generally math. Now, there's ways to get it down, and there's ways, like, so anything can be agreed upon outside of court. So check this out. If you're a guy, look, most dads, so the deadbeat dad, it's for real. But most dads aren't a deadbeat dad. Most dads being called a deadbeat dad are made by the system, and they're disenfranchised. They go in unprepared, and they get set with child support that they can't pay. They have legal fees on top of that. They're confused by the court system. They confuse child support with visitation because they're two different things, and it's a total mind fuck. So then they get down on themselves. They can't, exist in the right way. They get depressed. They start fucking up in places, and they look like they're a deadbeat dad to everybody, and they feel like one. But every single one of those dads cares. They care in a huge, massive way. So if you hit hard, let's say in something like depositions, or you do something outside of court, and she knows she has nothing to stand on, you go, hey, let's settle. Like, if she has an attorney, your attorney or you or whatever makes the point to her attorney, if you step forward, here's what happens. Like, if you step forward, we're subpoenaing all your coworkers, we're going to subpoena your boss. We're going to do a forensic audit on you. We're going to do all these
Do you
different
reach this? Is this what you do to her once you secure your attorney and let her know that this is what's going to come down the
If
line?
you can do it yourself, do it yourself. But man, you probably need an attorney for that.
Yeah.
And so you have to have an attorney that's willing to do
serious.
that.
Yeah.
Like, so here's the thing: when you're interviewing attorneys and you're working with me, we're going to tell you, like, look, if this is your angle, this is what you need to go for. You need to find an attorney that's willing to do it. And if your attorney's saying, I don't want to do that, or it's impossible, and we think it is, like, we don't live in your state, we're not attorneys ourselves, or some are, but we're not acting as your attorney. You need to start asking your attorney. Your attorney is your employee. It's not like you're there just going, oh man, please help me. You're going, I want this to happen. Can you do it? And if it's unrealistic, it's unrealistic. But that's also, I think, something to bounce off the people in my group and so on.
So they mentioned, shout out to Coach Greg Adams for giving a good video about this, but I think they mentioned as well, if you give a woman money without it being through the court system, like you just give her like...
It's a gift.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't cost child support.
Yeah.
So let's say you give her like $1,000 or whatever, or maybe like a gift outside of the court system, it's considered a gift, not
You
child
want
support.
your child support, if you're going to have the attorney general involved, which is kind of good, because if 5 years down the road she all of a sudden says, I need child support, she could screw you with arrears and all this sort of stuff on it. But if you get it put on paper, it can be a good thing. Like, think about this, like child support
Think about this.
could be the cheapest daycare you're going to pay for. Now, oftentimes, like, you might have to pay for daycare as well and these types of things. But if you're not going to be a custodial dad, if that's already decided, right? If you're fighting to be a custodial dad and you're fighting for time and you got 50-50 and you're getting screwed on child support, that is bad. But you need to understand that the child support that you're paying should be going to something good. Now, if you're in a state like California, man, like in Texas, it's capped. In Florida, you actually start out with 50-50. Like the judges are now moving more towards that, in Colorado as well. So they're good. They're better states for men. But New York and California, man, you could get hit with, like, man, catastrophic, like child support. It's horrible. Like, so Elon Musk pays, I forget what the cap is in Texas right now, but like $2,800 a month child support. So there could be a guy that is not one of the richest men in the world paying the same amount as him.
Because it's capped.
It's capped.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Any other chats or?
At Westcom,